as you know, I've been documenting my past from what I like to refer to as broke to brilliant, sharing what I've done through the years from 2005, 2006, 2007, all of the years that I was saving and investing, talking through what I learned during those years. If you want more information about those years, just go to my playlist on my YouTube channel and watch them consecutively, and you will learn about what I did to go from zero when I was broke at 40 to today in 2024 at a $1.5 million net worth, 200,000 of which is this condo that you're looking at right here that I paid off in 2019, and the other 1.3 million is in low-cost index funds that ride the total market. So when people try to tell you that investing is complicated, they're not telling the truth, because it really is easier than most people think. As long as you have a discipline, you've got income, which most of us have, and you know exactly what to do with that money every single year. So today is episode number 54, where we're going to be talking through my year of what I like to call retirement role play. And I know for you guys, that's probably many years into the future. But I think it's good to think about retirement because it will be here before you know it. And by the way, I may have shared with you guys, I really do not like the word retirement. I like to think about saving and investing as trying to build wealth. I mean, right? Isn't that what we're doing? We're building wealth over time. Now, that might also be then the time that we choose to no longer work. You want to get to a place where work is optional. So, today, episode 54, when you come back on Wednesday, for those of you watching this sequentially real time, I want to talk about how to transition from broke to brilliant. We'll be talking about some conceptual things that have more to do with behaviors of building wealth rather than the numbers themselves. And of course, on Friday, episode 56, Show Me the Money, I will be talking through my numbers for 2021, as I have been doing all along. So I don't really have a trigger of the week, but I know that many of you, including myself, we like tapping for ASMR. And what you're looking at is my 2021 planner, of course. I think all of us should have a plan for the future. And within these pages are a lot of the notes that I've written to myself through the years while I was learning about money. So you guys can do the same. Write down your thoughts. Write down your balances of your investments. Write down how much you're contributing each year. And then, as you'll also see on Friday's episode, how you can cross-check and reverse engineer to see how your portfolio performed. I think it's very important to be on top of your money at all times. And the way in which you can do that is to write it down. So again, today I wanted to talk through my year in 2021 miserable. I'm doing okay. I'm happy. Maybe I'm raising a family. It may not have been exactly what you wanted to do in life. We alluded to that on the last episode, and that is perfectly fine. Sometimes we make choices based on monetary things, not just, what we truly want to do, because a lot of times in life you do have to sacrifice, and if you want to do really great with money, sometimes we have to pivot, like I've talked about, and do something a little bit different. I am no exception to that. I chose a career path that I fell into that evolved over time, and I'm not saying it was a bad thing. I'm saying that it was a good thing. But what happens as you get older, and hopefully as you guys get wealthier, because with each passing year you want to get wealthier, what happens, and what happened for me in 2021, is that feelings and emotions start to surface that you have been repressing when you are broke. Does that make sense? So think about it for a minute. If we do not have money, and if we were not doing really well with money, our brains are going to teach us to not really think too much about the fact that we are broke. And why is that? Because we want to be happy. We want to be doing things in life every day that make us happy. And so there's something in our brain that then triggers and says, you know what, don't think those thoughts, because you have to have a job. That's just the reality of the world that we live in. But I'm here to tell you, as you get older and wealthier, those feelings come to the surface. And that's literally what happened to me in 2021, is that I was no longer able to suppress the feelings that I no longer wanted to work the job that I was in. Now, I'm not saying that I quit my job right away, but I started to do, again, what I call retirement role play. I started thinking about what would it be like to retire, because I think the secret to many things is to role play in advance. I alluded to that before in the last episode when I said that I wanted to create a podcast and a YouTube channel when I was 60 years old. Well, I started everything when I was 54 to learn my skill sets, to practice, to have that time to really think about it. And if you do something early on, that's the time that you have to experiment. Just as if you are saving and investing earlier in your career, you have room sometimes to make mistakes. You have the time to correct for it. Just like, for example, let's say somebody wanted to be a doctor. They go and they learn all of this education, but then they go to residency, and that's where they practice. People are looking over them. They're practicing their skill sets. They're practicing the knowledge that they've gained before they become what they were trained to become. So you have to see the future. You have to practice the future before you can actually make it happen. And in 2021, I was 55 years old. So as part of my retirement role play, one thing I did on my Broke at 40 podcast was I started to produce episodes called Dear Dollar Diary, where I started talking through what my feelings and thoughts were about going into possibly early retirement. So it's a strange phenomenon, again, that your feelings start to come up once you know that you've created an engine that allows you to potentially quit your job. And that is the secret to it. The secret is not that you are truly going to quit your job. The secret is that you can quit your job, but doing something and thinking about it are two completely different things. So right now, here as I sit in 2024, I could quit my job tomorrow. I do have, as you guys know, the $1.3 million in investments at this particular time. My net worth is $1.5 into the part of this episode where I'm going to talk about some numbers. That then gave me the ability to start role-playing. So what I did was I started thinking to myself, Evan, if you do retire, if you pull the plug and you no longer have an income from your W-2 job, what would that look like? Well, you guys know my expenses are roughly $20,000. You want to have the ability, again, to keep your expenses really low. Now, you guys remember, you may not remember if you didn't watch the episode, obviously, but I had said that Vanguard has told me that I could withdraw about $50,000 from my portfolio a year, because I've got the 1.3 million and 4% of that is roughly 50,000 or 52,000. Okay. Now, the way you position yourself, though, is you say to yourself, I could potentially take $50,000 a year, but if you keep your expenses low, like I just mentioned, mine are $20,000. Do you see that there's a lot of wiggle room there? Okay. Now, that $20,000 are my true expenses, but I do have built into that $2,000 a year for healthcare premiums. Let me pause there and talk about this for a minute. One of the biggest things about people that want to go into early retirement, especially if it's before age 65, which of course makes it early, right? You know, I've said this before, but what happens at age 65? We qualify most likely for Medicare. But if I retire early, before 65, I have to pay for my health care insurance premiums, and that can be quite expensive. That's why a lot of people, especially in the United States, don't want to retire early, because they have to fund, F-U-N-D, their own health care premiums. But through Obamacare and now the Biden Affordable Care Act, they have, as I learned in 2021, there are subsidies that you can qualify for from the government at healthcare.gov on a website called Marketplace. So it was in 2021 that I did the role play, and I said, Evan, I actually created an account with healthcare.gov in anticipation of maybe going into early retirement. And what happens is you choose a healthcare program, and then you click a few buttons, and it tells you what your subsidy would be. So let's say, for example, healthcare might be $10,000 a year. You might get subsidizations of the government for about $8,000 a year, so you only have to pay about $2,000 per year. And at the end of the year, when you do your taxes, that gets all settled up in terms of if you paid yourself below certain dollar amounts of income that you take from your investments. Because the subsidies for healthcare from the government are based not on somebody's net worth. They're based on the income that you pay yourself. So if, again, you are paying yourself lower dollar amounts, like $40,000 a year, $50,000 a year, then you qualify for the subsidizations. The other thing I want to say about subsidizations is it's scheduled to end in 2025 at the end of the year. But I'm sure that our new president will probably adopt the program, most likely. I can't imagine them not doing that. But that weighs heavily on me, especially in 2021 when I was thinking about going into early retirement, because paying $10,000 a year is a lot of money that I would be having to pay from my investments. Now, $2,000 is a little bit better, right, because of the $8,000 subsidization. So, getting back to my numbers here, in this role play of early retirement, I was thinking 20,000 expenses, 2,000 healthcare premiums. I have an $8,000 buffer. That's the additional $8,000 that I'd have to pay if the tax care credits go away. Are you following me? If I don't need the buffer, I don't need the buffer. Then I can relinquish it and not take it from my investments. I have $10,000 for fun and other. And then I've got $10,000 for reserve. So if you add up those numbers, as long as you've had that 401k with your employer for certain criteria. I forget what that criteria is, but I did the research, and